What's going on, guys? We're here in Arizona today. Decided to take kind of an impromptu trip this week. The sun finally came out. I showed up on the one day that it rains in Arizona, but the sun finally came out up here on the rooftop looking at the view. Every time I come out to Arizona or anywhere like this, it's like you see the mountains, you see the openness, you see the sun, and it's just like, it gets you thinking, gets you motivated, and it made me want to make this video. It's gonna be kind of a chill video today. Topic of this video is freedom is the ultimate flex. So the reason this is an important concept, guys, is that most of the world puts you in this kind of like hustle culture mentality, and it's where they basically they send you go to high school and you work, they tell you to go to college, then they tell you to get this job and climb a corporate ladder, and it's like it's always in service of the next big material possession. And you guys know that I am like obviously big on material possessions. I want to be very successful financially, but I think from a young age I always saw it as like the financial goals are really in service of you having control over your life. That's how I've always viewed it, is like the money itself is not that important. The even things like the Ferrari and the nice car or the nice house. So yeah, like I want these things. These are great. I don't think you should poo-poo these things. I think you should all strive to get really nice things in your life. But I guess on some level I always knew like the point of all this shit at the end of the day is so that you can have freedom and control over your life. And a lot of times what people do is they trade freedom for financial security or success, and they think that that is going to make them happy. And the funny thing is they don't even do it in a very good way. Like they go chase like $100,000 corporate job, and like, not shitting on it, but realistically like $100,000 a year, what are you even going to do with that? You know what I mean? Like you can buy like a basic ass house, and like they're going to own you for that. I've always said this, like those middle income corporate jobs where you make like 80,000 to like 150,000, they're like some of the worst jobs you can have, guys, because for them to pay you that kind of money, they want your soul. Realistically, they want to own you, control you. And I just could never live that way. And so it's always been a philosophy of mine to optimize my life for freedom. And in order to get freedom, you do need to make a lot of money, but you want to make sure you do it in such a way that doesn't rob you of the thing that you wanted in the end. And this has been something I've always been mindful of. And, you know, just literally a few days ago before I came out here, my friend was like, hey, you should come out to Arizona. You guys know that I'm working on building the supplement business. My friend Kenny, he runs an e-com company. There's a few guys out here who also do e-com businesses. If he was basically like, hey, this would be a good time to come out here, lock in. The weather's pretty solid out here, better than it is on the East Coast right now. And so I literally was not planning on it, but I was just like, fuck it, I'll come out there. So I just booked the flight, 8 days out here. I don't have to ask anybody. I don't have to ask a boss. There's no 2-week, bullshit like that, 2 weeks paid time off per year. None of that shit. I literally control my own life because I control where my money comes from. And to me, that's the most valuable thing you can possibly have in your life, is that ability to not have to answer to somebody. And the thing is, like, I guess I've just always, like I said, known like this is something to optimize for. And so I've always thought, okay, I want a bunch of money, but I want to do it on my terms. And this isn't the same as like a lot of people will be like, I want to be an entrepreneur so I can set my own hours. That's not what this is about. You have to work your ass off if you're going to work for yourself. This is not about being lazy. This is about having control and ownership over your own life, not having to ask another man if you're allowed to go do something with your time. To me, that's the gayest shit possible. And like as soon as possible, you want to get out of that kind of lifestyle, because it just fucking sucks, guys. And so the mindset that you want to have when it comes to this freedom is the ultimate flex mentality is, yes, you want to do very well financially, but you also want to caveat it with managing for control. You really want to optimize for leverage and control over your life. You want to put yourself in a position where you're not just making good money, but the money is working for you so that you have agency and control. You need the money to be able to go travel and do things like this. You need the money to, go have a nice place to live. Money opens up freedom, but in the process of getting it, you don't want to give up your freedom. So you might be understanding this and seeing this as like a good mindset, hopefully, but how do you do this tactically? How do you tactically set yourself up so that you're optimizing for freedom? Well, it's really about looking for different opportunities that provide you this sort of leverage and understanding that freedom is basically a continuum. It's not that you're free completely or you're completely unfree. Freedom is literally on a continuum. There are certain things that I am not free from, right? I have to pay my taxes. I do not have the freedom to go hop on a private jet whenever I want. I do not have the freedom to drive a Ferrari whenever I want. I do not have, certain freedoms I don't have available to me in my life. I don't have the freedom to tell the PSA people to fuck off if I'm going through the airport. There are certain things I don't have freedom over. But essentially, you want to understand, like, everyone's operating at a certain level of freedom. If you're down here where you're making practically no money at a low-wage job, it's like you basically have no freedom. Your time is controlled by this entity, this job, whatever it is, that needs you there at certain times. You have to ask for permission to be off or you get in trouble. And then the money you're making isn't even paying you enough to have any real freedom in your life. So that's like a really low level of freedom. And then as you progress up the ladder, you open up more and more freedom. And so really the game here is to think like a strategist and not be so short term, right? Like I had to have this realization when I was working the UPS job I've told you guys about. The owner of the company, he offered me the position of manager. This was back when I was like 23, 24 years old. He offered me the position to be the manager of the store, and it was going to pay like 65 grand a year, which was like decent money for me at the time. It would have been the most money I'd ever made, but I saw what was going to come with that, which was like 50 hours a week of work. I'm pretty much like on call for if this job needs me at any time. I don't really have an agency over my life, and $65,000 a year doesn't even get me anywhere. And so I saw that it's like that would give me a short-term step up, right? I could get an apartment for the first time in my life, like a nice place to live. I could, maybe I could afford to have a girlfriend. I could do all these things that guys really want, but I saw that in the long term, this was trapping me and it was leading me down the wrong path. And so tactically speaking, when it comes to optimizing for freedom, it's about having the common sense to look into the future and not be controlled by your impulses and be like, okay, I am willing to take a short-term loss here for a long-term gain. And so I chose not to do that. I chose to quit the job, move to Houston, Texas, start my fitness coaching business. This was a short-term burst of increased freedom, actually, because I began to control my life. But my finances were a real mess because of this, because I just wasn't that good at business at the time. And so I ended up taking a step back as far as my freedom went, because I just didn't have much money to do anything. But in the long run, it set me up because I learned a bunch of business skills. I gave myself opportunities. I met the friend that I'm staying at his apartment right now when I lived in Texas, and now I'm here in Arizona. Like, it opens these things up to you. And I just knew that long term I was going to be better off by not sacrificing my freedom. This has been the same mindset I've taken to things like dating, even things like getting a dog. Like, sometimes I'm like, man, I would love to have a dog. But then I'm also like, yeah, but then if I go out of town now, I got to take care of the dog. I got to get somebody to take care of it. Like, it limits my ability to have freedom. And I'm sure I'll get a dog at some point in my life. But I just realized, I'm like, the most important thing you can have in your life is freedom. And it's not just freedom so that you can be like, fuck it, I'm going to go travel a little bit. That's great. But it's freedom just so like you can take opportunities when they arrive, right? If I'm like, financially strapped because I have no money to my name and a business opportunity shows up, well, I can't take it. I don't have the freedom to take it, right? If I want to pursue a hobby, like I do boxing and I'm training to do the professional boxing fight, it's like I have to have the money and the time control to do that, right? And it's like these things start opening up to you because you optimize for freedom. And so wherever you're at in your life, you need to ask like, okay, how can I increase my freedom rather than just increasing money? Because here's the thing, if you increase your freedom, you will naturally be able to increase your money, because the way you make money is not by spending every hour of the day grinding away at some wagey job, right? If you're making $15 an hour and you work, or let's say it's 20 for round numbers. Let's say you're making 20 bucks an hour. You work 40 hours a week, you make, what is that, 800 bucks? All right, so you make 800 bucks a week, okay? What are you really gonna do with that, realistically? And let's say you double that. Let's say you go from 40 hours a week to 80 hours a week. Okay, so now you're making 1,600 bucks a week, maybe some overtime. It's like you're still not even making six figures. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of guys get into this trap of like, they wanna make a bunch of money, and so they're like, the short-term thing is like, I can just work more hours at my job. And sometimes that's the right move, but a lot of times the right move is you actually need to work less so you have freedom to invest yourself in more high leverage opportunities, improving your income skills so that you can get paid more per hour. These are just certain mindsets. I'm genuinely just riffing in this video, guys, but hopefully these are good nuggets. Like, optimizing for long term is really important for freedom. And another one is optimizing for like high efficiency, meaning how much money can I make per hour, right? If I do one real estate deal, I can make $12,000 and I work like 15 hours on that. It's like the average person has to work like 3 months of their life to get that kind of money. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying, like, I set it up that way. I was like, these are big opportunity checks I can make really quickly and efficiently with my time because I have the skills to do it, because I know how to market and I'm a leader and I'm good in the market and I know how to help my clients. I have certain skills that allow my time to be worth more money, which opens up more freedom. So I can still make more money than most people, but I still have a shit ton of freedom, which allows me to keep moving up that ladder. And so a lot of times you got to think about it like a strategist. You really got to live your life strategically. Most people just don't think about anything very much. I guess I've just always been very strategic with my life. I'm like, I know where I want to get. I want to be rich as fuck and in control of my life. I've known that for as long as I can remember, and it's not an easy thing to do. We all know that that's difficult, but it is doable if you have the right strategy. And so I've just always taken that approach to it. I've always taken that approach of like, okay, here's where I want to go. How does this get me there? And asking that question, does this thing get me closer or further away from my goals? And trying to be strategic in my path, understanding that even when I got that job at the UPS store, the reason I took the job, before then I refused to get a job. And my parents were like, and you know, rightfully so, probably because I was living with them at the time, I wouldn't get a job. And I kept trying to start these little businesses, and I really didn't know what I was doing, but I was trying to do it. And they would tell me, you need to get a job, you need to get a job. And I would always tell them, I'd be like, listen, if I go get paid $10 an hour and work 40 hours a week, I still can't afford my own place to live. I'm still flat broke, but now I don't have any time to learn anything that can help me get ahead. And so the only reason I even took the UPS store job when I took it was because he was paying $15 an hour and he only had me working 4 days a week. And so I started at 15 an hour. I ended up working up to like 18 bucks an hour, I think. But it's like I only did it because I still had control over my schedule. I still only had to work the 4 hours. It was 4 10-hour shifts. And then I had 3 days off to continue working on myself. And I saw that as like, okay, $15 an hour is enough money that I can invest in myself, and I still have control over my time. And so I was very structured with this. I was very strategic. I was like, I need freedom and I need some cash so I can continue to invest in myself. And I've just always had this mindset. When I got into real estate, it was like, I need cash while I need control over myself so I can continue to do the next things. And I've just always taken this approach to everything, and it's something you really want to start thinking about. It's like everything in your life, does this enhance my freedom, decrease my freedom? And there's certain times where, like, you know, when you're ready to get married and have kids, it's like the actual move that's going to give you freedom is to actually get married, right? And to have that girl in your life so you can have the family. And the family's going to cost you some of your freedom in certain areas, right? You're going to lose the freedom to just do whatever the fuck you want, whenever you want, because you have people that you're responsible for. You can't just drop it and just go on a solo trip for a month or some shit like that, like I could right now. But at the same time, it opens up other freedoms that you can't have if you're not willing to do that. And so there's a strategic thought to even what does freedom look like to you. But if you're in a spot in your life where you don't want kids, then I would tell you it's like, okay, having a girlfriend limits your freedom. It's somebody who's bothering you. It means you can't say yes to that other girl unless you're going to be a cheater, which I don't recommend being. I think you should be ethical. But the point of that is, like, you need to be thinking about freedom in everything you're doing, because freedom is the real flex. The thing that people compliment me on in my life, the thing people are so impressed by with me, is the fact that I just have a lot of time to do cool shit. It's not the fact that I rent a Maserati when I go on some trip. It's not the fact that, like, I can do some silly little flexing thing. Really, the thing everybody talks to me about that I see is like, oh, you went on that trip, dude, you're always going places. Or like, oh, how do you even have time to have a boxing coach? How are you in such good shape? How do you have time for that shit? And it's like, I planned this all out. I thought this shit through. I was trying to be structured from the beginning, and I knew clearly what I wanted my life to look like. I knew what freedom looked like to me, and I wasn't willing to compromise on that. And even when I had to, you know, do certain things I didn't want to do, I figured out strategic ways to set it up so it still benefited the long-term vision of where I was trying to go. And my ultimate vision is just the most freedom I can possibly have and the most money I can have without doing anything unethical, selling my soul, any bullshit like that. That's basically what I optimize for. Even things like fitness. Fitness is freedom, guys. Realistically, like, if you're fat, it's like you don't have freedom to do shit. I can just be like, yeah, fuck it, I'll go run a 10K Spartan race. That's basically what I did for the school community group. I just was like, yeah, let's go fucking run the race. It's like, if I was out of shape, I couldn't just do that. You know what I mean? If I was out of shape, you know, I mean, even being in shape gives you the freedom to date attractive women. It means that you're going to be healthy for longer. It means that you feel good. You have the freedom to sleep good. I mean, even basic shit, guys. Freedom is not just like traveling. Freedom is literally everything in your life. And asking yourself, like, how do I optimize my life so I have the ability to do everything I want to do? That's like a good general definition of freedom, is the ability to do whatever you want. And that applies to everything. Your ability to go pursue passions, pursue hobbies, be healthy, be attractive, have the lifestyle you want. Optimize for your lifestyle, guys. Optimize for a lifestyle of freedom, not just increasing your W-2 income. That's great and all, like, all things being equal, I'd rather make more money than less money, but I always add in that extra layer of, like, if this is going to cost me my freedom and my ability to achieve my long-term goals, then the trade isn't worth it. And so start thinking strategically, guys. I'm literally up here in the middle of the day, sitting on a roof. Nobody's bothering me. I'm working on building a supplement company, drinking a fucking Chobani protein shake, working out at some gym that I just showed up to in town. Like, I just do this kind of shit, guys. I, on a whim, went to Dallas a couple months ago with my school community, guys. I went to Miami at the beginning of the year. I don't have to ask anybody. Again, I'm not trying to brag. Like I said, I'm not the most free, the most rich person in the world. That should actually motivate you realistically. I really believe anybody with some common sense can get where the fuck I'm at. This is not really that radical. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be a billionaire. Just make some decent money. So literally, like, from the ground up, be like, okay, I need to make X amount of dollars so I have freedom over my life. Freedom for you, maybe it's getting an apartment. Maybe it's, you know, having a decent car and being able to travel a little bit. Okay, well, there you go. You just put some constraints on what you want. You need to be able to control your life as far as being able to travel. You need to make X amount of dollars, and that's basically what your, like, starting point is. And you say, okay, what can get me there? All right, it's probably going to be starting a business. Maybe it's a remote closer, a work from home job. You figure this kind of stuff out. You're gradually increasing your freedom as you move along, and you just keep making these steps that get you into a better position, guys. And I want you to start thinking about your life this way, because the worst thing I could imagine for myself is getting to a point where I'm literally stuck. You know what I mean? I almost got there where I felt like with real estate, I was like, if I keep pushing down this route, I'm going to hire people around me, and my real estate business is going to start consuming my life, and it can't even get me where I want to go in the end. Because real estate's a great business to make 6 figures in. It's not a great business to make 7 figures in. If I have like 3 or 4 people on a staff I'm managing and I'm responsible for them because they're helping me with closings and they're helping me with showings and all this kind of stuff, and I've got a big marketing budget and I've turned this into like a real legit business, well, now I can't just leave town when I want. I can't just, you know, drop everything and pivot to the next business because everybody's responsible for me. And so I had to even see it there. I was like, okay, real estate right now makes me, you know, 6 figures a year. That's good enough. I don't need to keep driving it to a higher level, because if I drive it to a higher level, it actually hurts me in the long run. Learn to think strategically, guys. Move like a fucking chess player through your life. If you move like a chess player through your life, thinking like this, I promise you, you can get to a good spot. You guys are all smart enough to figure this out. If you watch this kind of content, you probably have higher than a fucking 100 IQ. You're probably not a complete retard. So surely to goodness, you can figure out how to get where you want in life with some common sense and some fucking work ethic, guys. So hopefully this motivates you. Go get yourself some fucking freedom in your life. If you're tired of fucking sitting around and feeling like I can't leave town when I want, I can't fucking, I got to show up and work a 10-hour fucking shift at some bullshit job that's not even paying me enough to live off of. It's like, that's your motivation. Start being strategic. Start setting yourself up. Stop wasting all your free time and use it to get you some fucking freedom, guys. So hopefully that motivates you guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'll talk to you later.